Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our Oakwood Village store. We're going to do a spotlight today on probably one of the most popular family of grasses. It's called Miscanthus, or also known as silvergrass, Chinese, Japanese, Asian silvergrass, or maiden grass. That's what we normally hear as far as common names. Now, where did they get the name Miscanthus? Miskos in Greek means stem. So you'll notice on their flowers, they really come up very, very high from the actual foliage growth. So they have a long stem, Miskos. And then anthos is flower. So there you go, Miscanthus. Sinensis just means from China, basically. So there you go. They are Asian plants typically that we grow here. And when you're looking at ornamental grasses, there are so many different varieties, but we're always going to tell you when you're looking at a Miscanthus, you always will see a flower that looks like a whisk. This is a flower panicle, but I always show folks that's how you tell grasses apart, by their flowers. And so this flower looks like a big whisk. Sometimes it'll get a little bit fluffier as it opens up and the seeds dry a little bit more. When they're first new, they're real tight. So that whisk panicle, whenever you see them, it's a Miscanthus. And for the most part, these grasses are really easy to grow for us. And we'll talk about all their attributes and so forth. But just so you know, they are warm season clumping type grass. They have a very sturdy, very tough, vigorous rhizomatous root system, okay? So that can make them a little bit tough to move and divide. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But for the most part, they have an upright arching habit to them. The lower or smaller varieties are a little bit mounded, very pretty. And then, of course, those plumes, those inflorescence will come up, and they are, again, a whisk. So here we go. So what do these plants love? Well, like I said, they're really easy, and they typically love full sun conditions. So 6 or more hours of sunlight during the day. Believe me, they can tolerate a part shade condition. However, I don't really recommend that when we're growing grasses, because when you put grasses into more shady spots, they tend to get leggy, they tend to open up, they tend to just not look full and sturdy in those conditions. So that's why you really want to make sure you're growing these in full sun, okay? So 6 or more hours. Next thing, of course, is soil. And what do they truly love? They truly love a well-drained but moist soil. But what's neat about Miscanthus is they'll grow in just about any type of soil condition. So it could be wet, it could be drier. Of course, you'd want to get them established well first, that first year in the ground. Other than that, they'll do very nicely for you in poor soils, in richer soils, all those types of things. So at this point, I normally recommend adding some organic matter to your soils, mixing a 50-50 mix of your existing soil with your organic matter, like a planting mix, a compost, what have you. You can do that with these plants. You don't need to do that with these grasses, okay? So just be aware that wonderful soil condition that we want you to provide most of your perennials, this one really doesn't need it, okay? So that's kind of nice and easy too. As far as watering, 1 inch of water 1 time per week. When we don't have any rainfall, we always want that deep, thorough watering to get the root system established quickly, and that will do very nicely for them as well. There's plenty of time to grow grasses. We're in fall here in Northeast Ohio. You can still get them rooted into the ground. We would, of course, want you to apply biotone down in the hole after you've dug it out. So biotone works to activate that root system and get it established. So that's where it's going to do its best job. So add biotone to that hole and then go ahead and plant your grass, of course. The next thing that we need to know about these grasses, of course, is fertilizer. And at this time of year, if you're planting grasses now, you really don't need, other than that biotone product, you really don't need a maintenance fertilizer. We ask that you fertilize them in the spring, okay? So in the spring, you can apply plant tone and iron tone, and they will love that. If you get around to fertilizing them again and adding that second dose of fertilizer midsummer, that's great. Believe me, the grasses don't necessarily need it. It is not something that they need. Like I mentioned, they really can tolerate a lot of different soil conditions, poor soil conditions being one of them. So that high nutrient load, not necessarily what they need, but they'll appreciate it if you do it, okay? So that's something to keep in mind as well. With maintenance, as I mentioned, these grasses are very low maintenance in our area. We appreciate all the grass families that we have, and Miscanthus is to no exception. It is very low maintenance again. And so with the maintenance with grasses, we want you to go ahead and leave them up as long as you can through the growing season into winter, because we love them for that fall and winter aspect that they really provide out in the landscape. But of course, in spring is when we'd like you to prune them down. And I should say late winter, early spring, usually in the month of March, if you can get out there on a nicer day and go ahead and really cut them as low as you can possibly go. And you will not hurt these grasses at all. They grow like perennials, okay? So that top growth is going to kind of change color, dry, stay upright. And then when it's time to cut them back, they're already starting to want to grow through that old system. And so you got to get all of that old foliage, all those old stems out of the way, okay? So when we're cutting grasses, we literally are talking about cutting them as low as you can go down to the base of them. Just leave an inch or 2 or 3 just low, okay? Try to clean them out as best you can. Some people will use a weed whacker to do it. Some people will literally use a lawnmower and try to run them over. So it just kind of depends what works best for you. Please be careful when you're cutting back your grasses. I tend to use just old-fashioned hedge clippers, okay, to go ahead and whack them through. And what I'll typically do is I will tie up the stems and the foliage in fall, put a little twine tie around there. They look like a cute little haystack, if you will. And then in that late winter, springtime in March, when we're ready to cut back, I'll have a bundle of grasses that I can cut at the base and go ahead and throw those on the compost pile, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're looking to divide Miscanthus, it's tough. And that is where the maintenance could go up a little bit. But I want to tell you folks that if you find a great place to grow Miscanthus, just find a good spot where you don't ever have to move it, okay? Now, if you get a Miscanthus that is really mature and overgrown and you start to see it kind of dying out in the center, that does happen because it kind of grows in rings like a tree does. So the center might kind of die back after many years, and then you have the outward ring that is the most active growing. And that's okay. That does happen with these grasses. All you need to do, believe it or not, is you need to just cut like a pie wedge out of the grass, and that wedge is going to be that active growing grass for you. It sounds easier, and it really is difficult. So I do implore you to get some help when you're doing this. And dividing grasses, lots of times you have to dig, and then if you can split with 2 pitchforks back to back, pulling the grass clump apart. So again, I've known folks that have, again, with care, have used a chainsaw to divide grasses before. And again, it's tough. It's a very, very tough thing to do. So just be aware of that. Low maintenance, other than trying to move them and trying to divide them. Then it can be a little bit tougher for you, okay? Now, just remember that these grasses are not native. They're from Asia. And so They grow very, very well for us in our climate zone, no problem whatsoever. In fact, anywhere from zone 4 to zone 9, and we're in zone 6-ish, 5B, 6A, right around there in our area. And so they're very hardy. They have no problems over the winter. You don't need to protect them. You don't need to do anything with them. And I'm going to tell you, boy, are they pest resistant. So you will not see any deer, rabbit browsing on them, rarely any insect issues, rarely any disease issues too. So it is, like I said, a fairly low maintenance plant. Now, you need to know that some of the older varieties and the straight species, Miscanthus sinensis, Miscanthus sinensis is actually an Ohio invasive plant, and so we don't grow that. There are cultivated varieties now that produce very, very few sterile seeds out there. Some of the older varieties might produce a little bit more. Some of the newer varieties are completely sterile. So do look for those varieties. And again, we can't grow straight species anymore. So you'll find that as well. Okay. I do want to say that whenever you have a plant that has some seed that reseeds in an area, best way to reduce that reseeding is to cut those flowers down when they do really go to seed and dry, and then you don't have the seeding problem, okay? So do keep that in mind. We talk about that quite often with things like Rose of Sharon or another kind of seeding type perennial like Joe Pye weed, for example, okay? So cut those flowers back when they really start to dry and go to seed. Okay, now, next part, attributes. So why do we love to grow grasses? Obviously, it is the foliage interest with these plants. The flowering's very nice, don't get me wrong, it's an added bonus, and you can cut and dry these flowers and use them in arrangements. So they make a great accent, especially in the fall, right? So they do. They're really, really beautiful in that respect, but it's the foliage. And of course, as the colors really change going into fall, there's excellent fall color. They'll sort of fade and dry a bit for winter. So you have that upright, spiky winter interest. So they really do a great job for us in the landscape. And again, they're just so low maintenance. You don't really have much of an issue maintaining them. Once they get established, they're ready to go. They do their thing, and they just look gorgeous out there. Okay. Now, I should have mentioned also, they will reduce erosion. They will grow in containers if you want to grow them like on a porch, patio, deck, up on a roof, what have you. So they would work very well in that situation too. They are, I don't know, there's just a lot of great things about grasses in general, and Miscanthus works, okay? It really does. There's a lot of varieties. We grow a lot of cultivated varieties at Petitti's, and so I'm going to try to walk you through some of these varieties and sort of mention that cultivated name, and then also their height. So I was going to kind of start with the shortest varieties. And with Miscanthus, my shortest variety is called Little Kitten, okay? And Little Kitten is just a green grass here. And I think this is, yep, I'm pretty sure. So Little Kitten starts out very thin, narrow leaves, absolutely beautiful, green grass, bright white midrib. And you'll find with any of the Miscanthus varieties, they're going to have this white stripe right down the middle, typically, okay? So that mid-rib, that midline. And it's very pretty because you can see it on some of the varieties, some more than others. It just kind of depends. And so with Little Kitten, you're going to get about 1 to 3 foot of foliage growth. It's about a mounded, it has kind of a mounded arching habit. You can see some of the foliage arch out. And then, of course, you're going to get those nice little whisk plumes right above the grass here. This has a little bit of color to it. They're typically on kind of the buff side or creamy color, and they'll fade to more of a silver color, okay? So Little Kitten's a nice compact form. Another one that's on the smaller side, this is Yakujima. Yakujima is about 3 to 4 foot tall with the foliage. It has a little bit thicker foliage. You can tell some of the foliage is changing into its fall colors. You can also tell that it started blooming a little bit earlier than, let's say, Little Kitten. And that'll happen where those plumes, of course, have started to dry. The seeds have come off on my jacket as well. This is, just so you know, it's a sterile variety too. So this is very good. Does not throw out or produce those seedlings. And look at the colors in Yakujima. This is a very consistent bloomer. Does really, really nice. It's typically green again, and maybe just slightly wider foliage than Little Kitten here, okay? Another one that I have behind me here, this is Adagio, and I'm going to pull this out. You know what? As I look at this, I realized this is Yakujima and this is Adagio. So I do apologize about that, folks, because Adagio does have those big fluffy plumes when it really gets going. Yakujima here is going to be, again, about a 3 to 4 footer, has those tall stems on it, beautiful wisps, a little bit darker, a little bit more bronze there too. So really, really nice. My other smaller one that I have is called Little Zebra. Little Zebra is right here, and it is one of the many banded varieties that we have and we grow. Banded Miscanthus have those big yellow blocks on their foliage. Okay, so it looks like they have stripes going down the foliage here. Little Zebra is about a 4, maybe 5 footer with the foliage, and obviously much taller with the plumes here coming out, silvery color, very pretty. And then right behind it, of course, is going to be the taller Zabrinus grass. So I'm going to pull it forward, and you can see Little Zebra has more of a narrow leaf. The taller Zabrina has much of a bigger leaf here. And then, of course, taller habit, arching stems, and the flowers come out much later in the season as well. So these flowers have a nice kind of bronzy color to them right now, but they will become silvery as they do open up. And we only have 2 flowering stems right now, so we know more is going to come from this plant. This is a young Zabrinus here, and so you're going to find that when Zabrinus really starts to grow and fill out and mature, the foliage will be over my head. So we will have more of like a 6 to 7 foot grass and the plumes on top of that too. So if you're looking for a taller banded variety, this is a really good one to try. Okay, I have a variegated grass here, and this is actually called variegatus. Really, really beautiful. This is one of the later bloomers out there. And if you look at variegatus, again, the foliage is rather thick, has a thicker texture. It has that white midrib, but then it has many of the cream stripes going down the foliage. And it has that really pretty creamy margin or edge on the foliage. So it does really stand out. The foliage itself is probably around that 4 to 5 foot mark in the garden. You'll have silvery plumes come out from the foliage, but again, very late bloomer on this plant. So you'll see those come later. And I think that the color really, really stands out in sunnier spots. You'll start to see, fading of color if you put it in that partial shade or any shadier spot. So just be aware, again, you'll start to lose your variegation quite a bit. Okay, down behind here, behind variegatus, look at that red. So this is fire dragon. I've talked about fire dragon before. It's a newer variety for us. Definitely turns color much faster than some of the other Miscanthus for the fall and winter season. Beautiful red stems, red burgundy foliage, beautiful silver plumes. So really, really beautiful. Fire dragon, again, around that 6 foot mark is what we're talking about, 6 to 7 foot typically with the plumes on top. Another beautiful kind of color changer is called Miscanthus purpurescens. Miscanthus purpurescens, we have it up on a bench here. It actually is smaller than fire dragon. It's usually about 4 foot tall with its colorful foliage, and then up to 5 with its flowering. You can tell how thick and dense this leaf is, so it does have a thicker texture to it as I hold the other down. It's gone through its color changes. So it's really the fastest to change color as far as the Miscanthus are concerned. And it'll start changing color typically in late July, early August for us in Northeast Ohio. And then it'll go through the color changes all through the stems. And then, of course, the flowering as well. So that's a really pretty one. That's what we call sometimes flame grass, okay, common name. So that's Miscanthus purpurescens. On the outside, we've been showing this lately, and Taylor and I like this variety. This is called Oktoberfest. And Oktoberfest colors up right at the right time. So typically September, October, when you have those kind of festivities, those Oktoberfest festivities happening. It does have a thicker foliage to it, so it's a little bit bolder texture in the landscape. Oktoberfest is usually around, I would say, 5 foot with foliage, 6 to 7 foot with the inflorescence on the top of it. But look at that color is changing very gradually from a nice medium green to a burgundy to more of like an orange yellow too. So this goes through a lot of color changes. The plumes on this, those wisp plumes, are probably twice, maybe 3 times as thick as some of the other plumage on the grasses. So just look for that too. It's very, very dense, very showy flowers on Oktoberfest. So that one really stands out in the landscape as well. One of my absolute favorites, I'm going to go down here, Taylor, is Morning Light. And Morning Light is also a late bloomer. It is an older variety, but look at how narrow that foliage is. It just has a really beautiful texture to it, soft texture to it. When you look close to Morning Light, it has the midrib, that white midrib, but then it has 2 very narrow stripes on the margins of white. And so it almost makes this grass look silvery compared to all the others. It just has a lot of color, a lot of movement in the landscape. It's fabulous. I love Morning Light. It is also one of the latest bloomers. Oops. So needless to say, this one is really, really beautiful, and you'll get some of the plumage or inflorescence much later with this variety. Sorry, I forgot to mention Morning Light's probably around 5 foot, maybe it pushes 6 foot with the flowers when it gets there. The last one that I wanted to mention is the one that fell over. No way, Taylor. It did. Okay, hold on, guys. Here we go. We put it up on the table, and it's one of our most popular, best-selling grasses. This is called Gracillimus, okay? Gracillimus is upright, really, really beautiful, sort of a medium texture here, but really gorgeous when it fills out. It's super dense, and look at those flowers coming up. So you'll notice that they have sort of a pinky burgundy tinge to them when they start, and they'll fill out, of course, and just kind of gradually fade into a soft rose silver color. This plant is really, really dependable, folks. If you want, let's say, anywhere from 6 to maybe 7 foot on Gracillimus, this would be an excellent choice for you. And believe me, it is very, very popular out there. So very reliable. So lots of different varieties to choose from. Guys, I didn't show you bandwidth today. I didn't show you giganteus. There are so many other beautiful Miscanthus varieties out there and available. They all have wonderful landscape presence on them. Shorter taller, whatever you're looking for. You can use them as a screen, a backdrop to perennials. And there was my other point. See, I almost forgot to tell you that they combine with so many beautiful plants out there in the landscape. Combine them with any of the daisies. It could be a Shasta daisy, it could be a coreopsis, a black-eyed Susan, a coneflower. They all look great with this plant. Your fall blooming asters, beautiful in front. How about your Joe Pye weed? You can get some tall Joe Pye weeds to kind of complement with the taller grasses. You could get shorter Joe Pye weeds as well. We also have things like sedums. They grow really, really well where you can grow your sedum or your stone crop as well. So lots of plants will go wonderful with your grasses. Miscanthus is no exception to that. I will have to say your Miscanthus, love that full sun condition. Moist, well-drained soils are great, but if you don't have it, no problem. Just get them established and you'll do really, really well. Enjoy.